All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is SOMAN with match number 8216773. So, yes, today our panel's discussion is going to look at SDG 6, yes, clean water and sanitation. Our title is Access to Clean Water and Sanitation, and why are billions of people are still being left behind. And honestly, that question matters because we've made progress so far, right? Globally, even, but billions of people still don't have access to safe water or basic sanitation. The United Nations (UN) pretty clear of this. They call it as a basic human need, but population growth, pollution, called climate pressure, weak infrastructure, all of that keeps pulling against the progress that we are making so far. And it's not just developing countries' problem either. Even places with decent infrastructure on paper still have pockets that get left out. So the gap isn't always where you would expect it. So that's our central issue today. What's actually the biggest barrier here? Is it inequality? Is it the health impact? Or is it just money, basically the financing and governance? So for that, I've got three best panelists with me to dig into that. So first of all, we are going to look at Miss Sharamanisha, who's going to look at water accessibility and inequality. Next panelist, we have Miss INSIYA, who's going to bring in the public health side, what unsafe water actually does to people. And finally, we have Mr. Danish, who's going to look ahead, what's blocking the long-term solution, I can say, and what governments should actually be doing. So for this panel discussion, we'll start with you, Ms. Sharamanisha. So, Ms. Sharamanisha, from where you are standing right now, what's the biggest barrier to the universal access?
And Soman, for me, one of the biggest barrier to achieving clean water and sanitation is inequalities, and not just idea that some people have less than others, but the deeper structural inequalities that exist within societies. According to WHO data from 2022, around 2.2 billion people worldwide still lacked access of safety management drinking water. That significantly portion of the global pollution within that group, many people living rural areas spending more than 30 minutes every day just collecting water for their households. While over 100 million people still relies on untreated water from rivers, lakes, and other unsafe sources. So I think even when the country shows progress on papers and poor communities and rural communities, they get still left out. Bad infrastructure and poverty and also geography working against them also. So I would say that it's also important that recognize that women and girls disproportionately affected. In many communities, they are primarily responsible for collecting water, which means they are spends hours each week walking long distance instead of focusing on education, employment, or other opportunities that could improve their lives. Lah. So for me, inequality isn't barrier, it's kind of a root one. And everything else just sits on top of it. So that is okay.
Is that it, Ms. Sharamanisha? All right. So, okay, that's actually a strong claim. That's the root one. Um, can you give us a quick sense of why fixing inequality would actually fix it, and not just alongside of it?
Sure. It's because the other problem lands differently depending on where you already stand. So if a country gets a more healthy funding, urban clinics see it first. If there's a new water policy, urban pipeline get upgraded first, as you guys know, and the starting gap decides who actually benefits. So until that gap shrink, every other fix and just kind of repeat the same pattern.
Okay, so right. So even you mean even when there's a progress overall, certain community just don't see it, right? So now let's look at what actually that does to people. So Miss Insia, how does unsafe water actually affect people's health? So why should this worry us? Can you explain this on it?
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having me. So for me, the most urgent angle is just health, real immediate harm. I think the biggest reason this should concern us is because unsafe water isn't just an environmental issue. It is a public health crisis that affects millions of people every single day. Who says that close to 1.7 billion people are still relying on water that's contaminated with fecal matter? That's not just a small number. And what that water carries is cholera, dysentery, typhoid, diarrhea, and even polio. And here is where the number really gets me. Who estimates around 400,000 child deaths a year are preventable through better water and sanitation? Preventable, meaning we already know how to stop this. So this isn't just a development target we haven't hit. It is an active health emergency. Kids are dying right now from diseases we know how to prevent. That's the part I think we can't lose sight. So for me, SDG 6 isn't about only providing clean water. It is about protecting people's health, reducing preventable deaths, and also giving communities the chance to live healthier lives.
Okay, so that's actually heavy. So following up with that, okay, I want to ask, is this something that hits certain regions harder, or is it spread fairly evenly?
I would say that it is definitely something that spreads evenly. It is definitely something that is not spread evenly. The burden falls mainly on low-income regions, such as Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, where access to clean water and healthcare is much more limited. That's where I agree with Sharamanisha, what she mentioned earlier. Inequality doesn't just affect access to water, it also determines who is likely to suffer from diseases. So, poor water access and poor health often go hand in hand.
Okay, so is that it, Miss Insia? That it? So yes, okay. Actually, I can take this as a hard reminder that behind every statistic that we are looking, there's actually a real person. So now let's turn that into a real solution now. Okay, right, Mr. Danish, it's your turn now. So, Mr. Danish, what do you see as the biggest long-term challenge, and what should governments actually be doing? Can you enlighten me on that?
Alright, thanks. So I want to push back a little on where the conversation's gone so far, because I think the real root issue is the financing, a weak institutional capacity, basically. That a weak institutional capacity, basically. So the UN Waters has reported that over 75% of countries say that they don't have enough funding for their own national water plans. Over three quarters of the whole countries in the world. But if you go out there, you can listen, you can hear that people blaming the climate change for this cause. But it is a problem. I agree it is a problem, but it's not an original one. It's not the real root cause of the problem. The climate change only you can see the climate change only add and make an already broken system much worse. That's all. It's not the original crack. So if the government cannot even fund the infrastructure, cannot even make the treatment plants and also the maintenance, none of the problem will ever get fixed. No matter the weather conditions, whether it's good or bad. So in addition to that, we can even see that the international water for AIDS over the years has been significantly dropping and not rising. That's a major problem. That's a concern. So what I would argue is for the government to raise the stronger investment. We got to have the stronger investment. We have to have the public-private relationship, a partnership to make them keep each other in check, to check whether they do their work or not. And also we need a more creative financing model, because let's be real, without money, whether the inequality or the health, it won't solve any problem regarding of the both side.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Mr. Denny. But it's okay. So following up with that, when you say private partnerships, right? So can you
Hmm.
give us a quick example of what actually looks like on the ground? So like, can you enlighten me on that?
So the short example, the short explanation is the collaboration between private institution, private company, private organizations with the government. So it's like something like a private operator building or running a treatment plant under a long-term contract on the private organization part, while the government will keep the ownership of the activities and also set the price rule. So if this done properly, it will bring capital and also the expertise that the government doesn't have to find on its own, because finding one also will require a much it will be costly. They have to travel around the world to find the expert. However, if it's done badly, it will cause it will already affect us, which is the consumers. So the design of the deal matters a lot. Not just the idea of doing it, because everybody can think. Even a 5-year-old kid can think of an idea. It's the execution that is the problem. So that's
Okay, thanks, Mr. Danish. I actually like your point of view. Okay, so now let's open this up, Ms. Sharamanisha. Danish saying financing is the root cause here, right? Do you actually buy that, or do you still think inequality is the bigger issue?
Okay. I mean, financing matters. I'm not denying that, but I push back a bit because, like, even when the money is there, it doesn't mean it goes where it needed. Urban areas tend to get investment first, lah. So you can pour money into system and still leave rural communities behind. That's not financing gap. That's a distribution gap, and I think that's why inequalities are bigger issues for me because influencers who get access to resources in the first place. If certain communities are constantly overlooked due to poverty, location, or lack of political influence, then even funded projects may not reach the people who needs them the most lah. So yes, financing is important, but unless we address inequalities, the benefits of financing won't be shared equally.
sure. But
Okay.
look at the bigger picture. Without the funding in the first place, there's nothing to distribute evenly. What do you want to distribute without the money? I I will argue no. I will start with my point. Financing comes first. The distribution is a second stage problem.
Well, Danish, I strongly disagree with that. Actually, because look at the countries that have increased their water budgets. The improvement still screws urban, and so more money alone doesn't fix it. You need policy that forces towards the people who need the most.
Hey, Danish, how about that? Okay. Okay, that's a real tension out there. So, is it not enough money or money going to the wrong places? Okay, Miss Insia, it's now your I'm giving the stage to you. Where do you land on this? Is it not enough money or money going to the wrong place?
Okay, so for me, I actually think both Danish and Shara are right. Whether it's caused by inequality or underfunding, the people are still suffering. The people who are suffering are still the same communities. From a public health perspective, the priority should be preventing illness and saving lives. If the government treats clean water as a health emergency rather than just an infrastructure project, they'll be more willing to invest quickly and make sure the support reaches the communities that need it most. So instead of arguing which problem comes first, I think the better question is how can we address both problems at the same time?
That's fair actually. That's fair. So it changes my framing a bit. So if from what you said, if we treat it as an emergency, that probably does justify the faster funding decisions. So even before the distribution question is fully solved, maybe the financing and the agency aren't separate, but they have still at stake. So we have to force the government to still move the financing faster than they are currently are doing.
But I say that even is an emergency's response, if you don't deliberately design to reach a income communities, first you risk repeating same pattern inequality. And emergency funding often goes to the areas that are easiest, and also quick to reach, as you guys know. Not necessarily the area that is most affected. So while financing can provide the resources, inequalities influences how those resources are distributed. That's why I see inequalities as a bigger issue. So because of determine who actually benefit from the solution.
So, right. So maybe it's not really which barrier is biggest. It's how the response gets designed. So, Miss Insia, does public awareness or hygiene education factor into this at all? What do you think?
Definitely, it factors into it. Building water system is important, but infrastructure alone isn't enough. Communities also need education on hand washing, sanitation, and safe water storage. Without good hygiene practices, diseases can still continue to spread even after clean water becomes available. That's why education and infrastructure should always go together if we want long term improvements.
Yeah, Miss Sharamanisha, does that connect to what you were saying earlier about who gets left out? Is that your point of view?
It does actually, because education programs have the same distribution problem as infrastructure. They tend to reach schools, clinics, and in place that already have some access, and communities that needs the most lah. So even the soft side of this awareness education can ended up reinforcing the same gap instead of closing it, unless someone design it not to it lah.
Agreed. That's actually why I don't think this only come down to one fix, because you still need the funding, but you also need the policy that can direct it properly, and also the education piece to separate the knowledge to other people. If you either pull one of those, one of the three that I've just said, then the others won't hold up on their own.
Okay, so I'm getting all of your point of view. So before we wrap, I want to give each of you one last word. If you had to leave the audience with one thing, what would it be? Miss Insia, you first.
Okay, I'm
Miss Insia,
sorry.
your mic.
Okay. I like everyone to remember that behind every statistic is a real person, a child, a family, or even a community. Clean water isn't a privilege, it is a basic human right. If these deaths are preventable, then every delay in providing safe water and sanitation is delayed we simply can't afford.
Okay, next I would like to talk about it. So for me, mine would be like watch where the progress is actually landing. As rising national average can hide a community that hasn't moved at all or what.
What I would say, on the other hand, is that none of this move will sustain without the funding behind it. Because good intention will not build treatment plants. Budgets do.
Okay, that's actually a good place to put all this together. So now let's wrap up. So thank you all That was a really splendid discussion. So today we looked at a few different angles on what's really blocking universal access to clean water and sanitation. Uh, Miss Insia brought us back to the human cost, the disease, the preventable deaths, the fact that this is an active health emergency and not just a long-term target. And on the other hand, Ms. Manisha argued that inequality is at the core of it, especially for rural and also the lower income communities who get left behind, even when national numbers are quite improving, right? And our final panelist, Mr. Danish, made the case that without proper financing and institutional capacity, none of these problems can actually be solved. So, right now, so if we look into where did we agree is that water access is a basic human need, and all of us think the current pace isn't good enough. On the other hand, where we didn't fully agree is that whether the priority should be funding, fair distribution, or treating this as a health emergency at first. And honestly, I don't think we need to force an answer to that today. It shows like how layered this issue really is. So again, thank you for listening, and that concludes our panel discussion. Thank you all.